I'm a law-abiding citizen who's never shot anybody, never committed a serious crime, never committed a felony. I've never done anything like that. But it seems like every time we have one of these shootings, nobody wants to put the blame where it goes, which is at the shooter's feet. You want to put it at my feet. You want to turn around and restrict my right, constitutional right that's spelled out in black and white. You want to restrict my right to buy a firearm and protect myself from some of the very people you're talking about in here tonight. It's ridiculous. I don't think Rod Serling could come up with a better script.
Hi, this is Jeremy. Most people often mistakenly refer to our nation as the greatest democracy on earth. They are mistaken. We are a constitutional republic. The Founding Fathers went to great lengths to ensure that we were a republic and not a democracy. In fact, the word democracy does not appear in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. The Second Amendment to the Constitution protects the right of people to keep and bear arms and was adopted in 1791 as part of the first 10 amendments contained in the Bill of Rights. The Supreme Court of the United States has ruled that this right belongs to individuals. The recent Parkland, Florida school shooting has again fired up the national gun control debate on both sides. In the Parkland school shooting, the Broward County Sheriff's Office was told in November 2017 that Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, was collecting guns and knives and could be a school shooter in the making. Then there's even more shocking news. We learned that an armed school resource officer at the high school in Parkland sat outside and waited for 4 minutes. The entire shooting episode was only 6 minutes. The Broward County deputy was outside and heard the shots, then waited outside for 4 minutes and didn't enter. The attack ended with 17 dead people, including at least a dozen dead kids. The Broward County Sheriff's deputy, whose job it was, as the armed school officer, it is his job to rush that guy. But he sat outside and didn't do anything. Broward County Sheriff Steve Israel said this about Officer Scott Peterson, the school resource officer.
He was armed. He was in uniform. But what I saw was a deputy arrive at the west side of Building 12, take up a position, and he never went in.
And he never went in. So people on the other side want to make this about the guns and not about the fact that there was an armed officer there that did nothing. Instead, they want to make it about the availability of weapons. They say, well, can you blame him? The guy not charging? I say, yes, I can blame him. This is his job, and when the time came, he cowered. It gets worse. When Coral Springs officers arrived, many officers were surprised to find that 3 other Broward County officers were also outside the school and had not entered. The deputies had their pistols drawn and were behind their vehicles, and not one of them had gone into the school. Are you going to tell me that's the NRA's fault, or my fault, or 100 million gun owners who weren't there, many of whom would have rushed the shooter and tried to do something? Just like what happened in the Texas church shooting, where an armed citizen took down the bad guy. This guy was only a citizen, and he did a lot more than any of these officers did. We also saw this in the shooting that happened in Maryland. A school resource officer stopped someone from doing irreparable harm because he was a good guy and he had a gun. So the FBI failed twice to do anything about the shooter, and then Broward County Sheriff's Office failed 39 times to do anything about the shooter. And I am supposed to hand over my ability to defend myself to them? Why would I ever hand over my ability to defend myself to people who are going to stand outside and do nothing with the guns that I gave up? Removing guns will not stop bad people from killing when they choose. Criminals would still get guns illegally. That is why they are criminals. Or if not a gun, they will use another weapon. Like on 9/11, it was planes. In France and the UK and other countries where guns are banned, the attacks are with other weapons, like car bombs, human bombs, chemical attacks, and even acid attacks. There are hundreds of thousands of young people that have taken to the streets to march for gun control recently. Why? Because they have been taught fundamentally that the Second Amendment is expendable, and the Constitution is outdated, and that guns are essentially bad.
When they give us that inch, that bump stock ban, we will take a mile. We are not here for breadcrumbs, we are here for real change.
That argument is bull. I believe that young people today are more focused on deciding how they feel about an issue based on emotion and not logic. My message to fellow young Americans is to remember what we have learned in history class. We need to remember Hitler, Mao Zedong, and Joseph Stalin. The people that these regimes have oppressed, I'm sure, would have given anything to have something like the Second Amendment. And I am sure that the Holocaust would have been a very different thing if those they sought to oppress had guns to defend themselves. First they came for our guns, then they came for our liberty. Here in the United States, this will never happen, made possible by the Second Amendment. We must learn from history because if not, history is bound to repeat itself. So any argument that the Second Amendment should be abolished, I would look you in the eye and say guns don't kill people, people kill people. And that is the truth. And that a good guy with a gun saves lives. And that the right to bear arms is what keeps Americans safe and free. I will fight for it every single day, and other young people should too.